Assalamu alaikum. My name is zeeshanrahatkureshi, and I'm the founder and CEO of High Achievers League. So, today I thought to discuss with you guys some of the ways that we shortlist universities and programs for students. So, the first thing that we need to understand is the academic and career goals of the student. So, it may happen that the student wants to continue with their field of study. For instance, they may have done bachelor's or master's in a particular field and they want to continue with that. So, most students would do that. But sometimes a student wants to change their field, and there can be a number of reasons for that. So, that is something which is possible. So, depending on the student's field of interest, we help them identify their specific specialization or the research area. Then we need to know what the career aspirations of the students are. So generally, since we go into universities that are big universities, whether they be private or public universities, but they are good names, good name tag universities with strong networks and ties to the industries and sectors that are relevant to the career goals of the students. So that's always a plus for us. Okay, then another thing that we go for is the evaluation of the academic eligibility of the student. So we need to, compare the student's CGPA with the requirements. For instance, if the student's CGPA is 3 plus, then we can apply for him in universities and programs that have a requirement of CGPA to be 3 or 3 plus. If the student has less than 3, then obviously we would go for a different set of schools and universities. Then another thing is the requirement of test scores. So since we live in a non-native English-speaking country, so for us, it's important to take the test of English. It can be IELTS, it can be TOEFL, it can be Duolingo, it can be PTE. So different universities again have different requirements. So we need to see what kind of a test the student either has already taken or what kind of a test the student is more suitable to take. So this is a decision that we help the student make. Then there can be other tests as well. For instance, GRE, GMAT, or similar tests. If you're going for bachelor's, you may be required to take the SAT test. So whether the student can take this test or does he want to go for those universities where there is exemption of such tests, or if they are optional, then we have to look at that as well. Then, are there any prerequisites for the coursework? For instance, like I said, if a student wants to change his field, but he wants to go into computer sciences, so does he have, through his or her experience and other coursework, does they have the prereqs? If a prereq may be programming, a programming language, for instance, or something else. So, do they have the prereqs for that particular course? Generally, when you are uh, applying in your own field, then prereqs are not such a big issue because you've already done most of the courses required. Okay, then we also need to look at the reputation of the university, the ranking. So we need to set up a portfolio that is more diversified. This means that our portfolio should have safety schools, we should have the reach schools, and we should have the dream schools. So dream schools are those that are really high up there, and you really want to apply there and check your luck with those. Then read schools are those schools that are, that are more of a match with your academic history, and safety schools are those schools which may be a little bit lower in acceptance, but I mean, a little bit easier in acceptance, but you as a student are a star student for that school. So these are some of the things that we need to see. We need to see whether the university that you are applying in, is it recognized or not, because we don't go for unrecognized universities. We don't go for, dubious schools or schools that have dubious reputation. All right, then another thing to take care of is the financial needs of the student. So generally, because we focus on fully funded programs, especially for PhD, and fully funded or partially funded for master's programs. So we are generally not looking how expensive a school is, because we are going for funding anyways. But if there's a student who would like to pay and go, if they can do that, then that's a separate issue. But generally, our focus is very much separate from what 99% of the consultants are doing down there. So we are mostly focused on funding. So how do you get the funding? So when we are shortlisting the programs, we look at this criteria, whether those universities or those programs have scholarships or fundings. So how can scholarships and funding come from? They come from the availability of assistantships, fellowships, or financial aid. All right. Then we also need to see how well you are expected to do once you have graduated from your university. So this is another reason why we always go for well-reputed and well-ranked universities. So there are potential benefits such as employability and alumni salaries when you are going through a proper program. Um, Another thing that we go for is the faculty expertise. So whenever I make a list for the students and I share with them, so I generally advise them to look thoroughly into the programs and look at individual faculty members whose research interests match your research interests. Look at the program curriculum that they are offering, and also look at the research opportunities like facilities such as labs or libraries or partnerships. So this is another thing that we keep in mind. Then sometimes students have certain preferences. For example, a student may just want to go to the West Coast or the East Coast. So generally, if a student says that, I always ask them why do they want to go to a particular place. There may be a number of reasons for that. It may be weather, it may be that you have some relatives in a particular area, or maybe you want to be close to certain industries such as tech hubs, such as financial sector, etc. So there should be a proper reason why you're looking for a certain geographic area. Generally, when we shortlist universities, we do not have that criteria unless the student has requested it. But even then, I generally suggest students to keep it low priority, the geographic area, and keep higher priority, give high priority to admissions and funding. So unless there's a really, specific reason for going to a particular area. And then, yes, a preference may be there in a particular area due to cost of living. So if that's the case, then we can look into it. But then if you are getting, if you're not only getting your fee waived off, but also getting stipend, monthly stipend, so that generally covers up your living expense. Then I think it's a good idea to look at acceptance rates and profiles of admitted students. So this is again something that once we also look at that when we are building up the lists, but this is something that the students themselves should also look for. So average class profile gives you an idea about what kind of students a particular program accepts. All right. So, what we generally do is then, based on these criteria and other criteria, we shortlist universities. We make a spreadsheet. On that spreadsheet, we have the names of the universities, the names of the programs, their deadlines, their application fees, their requirements of tests, whether they require GRE or not, what's the minimum language proficiency scores that they accept, which language proficiency scores do they accept, whether it's either of the four tests that I talked about earlier, IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo, and PTE, can be applied in some universities based on the letter of proficiency. So that's one case. And then how much funding is available, we put that on the list as well. And then required documents and their email addresses and the exact web links of the programs. So generally, how we are different from mostly other consultants is that we focus on aid, assistantships, and all kinds of funding. So whether it's master's or PhD, we go for that. And even if you want to apply in bachelor's and you are a stellar student at your school, you can we can help you apply for bachelor's as well. So that's about it then. And if you guys have any questions, you can let me know. You can let me know through my Insta page or through WhatsApp. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.